The first rocket doesn't sound like a weapon. It sounds like an animal, high, tearing, desperate, like something alive is being ripped out of the sky and thrown at us. "Incoming!" Harrow screams, and he's already dropping into the turret, but the sound is faster than words. Inside the Sherman, everything is cramped and loud and breathing. The driver jerks the levers. The hull lurches. My helmet bangs the steel. Someone swears. Short, sharp, not even a full sentence. The rocket hits the road in front of us, and the world turns white. The blast punches the tank like a giant fist. The turret ring groans. Dust explodes off the floor plates. The intercom squeals. For one stretched out heartbeat, the tank is a bell being struck. Then the second rocket lands. Too close. Closer. Metal shrieks. Something outside snaps and whips away. A hot slap of fragments rattles against our armor. Tink, tink, tink. Like hail made of knives. The bowgunner yelps, then makes a sound that isn't a word. Joe, you hit!" I shout. He gasps. "Shoulder! Jesus!" Smoke curls in through a seam. Not the thick, oily kind yet, but enough to claw the throat. The driver coughs once, hard, and I taste grit and burned paint. Harrow's voice is raw in the headset. "Friendly air? Friendly air? Get down! Get down!" Friendly air. That phrase doesn't fit in my head. It's like saying friendly fire before you've admitted it's possible. Like trying to hold water in your hands and being angry when it leaks through your fingers. Outside, the engine note comes back around. Low, violent, circling for another pass. And here's the part that twists the knife. We were praying for that sound 10 minutes ago. Now, every man in this tank is waiting for the next rocket, like it's our turn to be executed. Harrow slams the radio handset like it owes him money. ABCCC, this is able to. You're hitting friendlies. I repeat. Friendlies. Static answers him. Pure, indifferent static. Then, through the branches overhead, I catch a glimpse of the aircraft. Thick wings, broad chin radiator, camouflage, a Typhoon, Royal Air Force. A plane built to kill tanks. A plane that, from up there, cannot possibly smell our sweat, hear Joe's pain, or see the white star that's now hidden by dust and leaves, and the simple fact that war is never clean. The Typhoon banks. And I realize we don't even know the worst truth yet. Was that attack aimed at us? Or were we just standing too close to someone else's target? Mortain sits in Normandy's broken green, where hedgerows turn roads into tunnels, and every field edge becomes a firing line. In early August 1944, the Allied breakout after Operation Cobra threatens to rip the German front apart. Hitler orders a counterattack, Operation Lüttich, meant to drive toward Avranches, sever the spearhead, and restore a collapsing situation with one brutal punch. On maps, it looks decisive. On the ground, it is chaos. Tired German divisions, fuel shortages, roads choked with vehicles, and American units holding key hills and crossroads with the stubbornness of men who know that giving up a mile now costs them 10 later. In this environment, air power becomes its own kind of weather, swift, sudden, and devastating. RAF Typhoons patrol in cab ranks, orbiting until called down. Their rockets can gut armored columns. Their cannon can shred trucks. Their mere presence can freeze movement and break timing. But the Mortain battlefield has a trick. It hides everything. Smoke drifts through valleys. Mist clings to tree lines. Vehicles vanish under branches and camouflage. A tank is not a clean silhouette. It is a shadow under leaves, a shape half seen through haze, a guessing game at 350 miles an hour. And that is where tragedy lives. Not in malice, but in the thin, violent gap between what pilots think they see and what soldiers are actually living. The Typhoon pilot, Flight Lieutenant Jamie Collier, doesn't go hunting American tanks. He goes hunting German armor. From 1,500 feet, he sees a thin road cutting through hedgerows and orchards. A controller's voice in his ear. Urgent, clipped, overloaded. Armor reported moving along a lane. Time is everything. Jamie pushes down. The Typhoon drops into the world of hedges and smoke, where the horizon becomes a wall and the target area becomes a blur of green and gray and sudden flashes. He spots it. Finally, a tank-shaped movement behind a break in the hedge, just off the road. Dark hull. Turret. The angle is wrong for a Sherman's clean look, more slabbed, more menacing. Or maybe that's what his mind wants to believe, because believing makes the trigger easier. He lines up. In the last second, the tank moves, just enough to show a faint glint. A white star? Jamie's heart stutters. But then, behind that star, farther down the lane, he catches the real threat. A panther's muzzle flash from a hedgerow cut, the gun blast hidden by smoke, but the recoil unmistakable. The panther is shooting through the gap, using the lane like a funnel, using American vehicles as accidental cover. Jamie's brain flips the decision. Hit the panther. Now. He squeezes the trigger. Rockets drop off the rails. 8 heavy answers to one question. And the first pair of rockets, aimed at the panther's hedge gap, go slightly long. Not by much. A fraction of a second, a breath of wind, a minor correction that comes too late. In a world measured in inches and milliseconds, slightly long is a death sentence. The rockets hit the lane, right in front of the American Shermans. From the ground, it looks like betrayal. From the air, it was a desperate attempt to save them from a German gun that was about to turn them into burning metal. That is the surprise of Mortain. The same strike can be both rescue and disaster, depending on where you stand when it lands. Jamie pulls up hard, stomach turning. He tries to reacquire the panther. He sees smoke blossom, dust rise, vehicles stopped. He doesn't know yet whose blood he's bought with his mistake. He just knows the lane is now a wound. Inside the Sherman, the 5 seconds after impact are not time. They're a sealed box. The driver's hands clamp so tight on the levers, his knuckles go white. His mouth opens and closes like he can't find air. The gunner's eyes snap to the periscope. Then away. Then back, as if looking might make it worse. The loader's body moves before his mind catches up. He checks the ready rack. He checks the turret ring. He checks the men. Because if he stops moving, he might start thinking. A fragment punches in through a seam and bites Joe's shoulder. It's not a clean, cinematic wound. It's stupid and jagged and unfair. Joe's face twists and he tries to speak, but it comes out as breath and pain. The intercom is chaos. Driver, back, back! I can't see. Joe's hit. Joe's hit. Radio, Get the radio.
Come on, talk to me.
Harrow slams the handset. His voice hits a pitch nobody wants to hear from an officer. Stop your damn attack runs. This is friendly armor. Outside, the Typhoon's engine comes back around. Lower now, angrier, looking for the second strike. And the crew realizes something primal. Even if the first rockets weren't meant for them, the next ones might be, if nobody fixes this fast. A second pass begins to form, audible, approaching, the air itself tightening. Harrow yanks open the hatch and half stands, despite everything. He waves a bright recognition panel like a man trying to flag down a hurricane. Look at us! The roar swells. Then, at the last possible moment, the Typhoon breaks off, climbing, banking away. 5 seconds become 10. 10 become a minute. The tank is still alive, but everyone inside knows they've just experienced a coin flip moment. A single decision from a pilot above, turn in or turn away, has decided who lives long enough to be scared again. The lane becomes a frantic clinic, a shouting match, and a command problem all at once. Infantrymen sprint from the hedgerows toward the Shermans, bent low like the air is still full of knives. A medic slides up onto the hull, palms burning on hot metal, and drops into the open hatch with practiced speed. "Where's the bleed?" he demands. Joe is pale, teeth clenched. "Here," he says, and tries to laugh and fails. "Tell the RAF I felt that."
I need you to keep
The
breathing
medic
for me.
presses gauze.
Just hold tight.
"You shut up," he says, because that's what medics say when they're afraid. "You keep talking. You're alive. Keep talking." Harrow is on the radio, voice shaking with fury, held in a vice. "We have friendly armor at grid. Repeat, friendly armor. You are short-rounding rockets into our position." Static. A half answer. A controller's voice comes through, strained, defensive, scared. "We're receiving reports of enemy armor in your vicinity. Confirm your panel. Confirm your panel." Harrow looks at the panel he's waving. Looks at the smoke drifting across the lane like a living thing. "You want a panel? I'm waving it so hard my arm's gonna fall off." A sergeant from the infantry, face like carved wood, leans into the turret. "Lieutenant, we got Germans in that orchard. We got movement. Your boys can still shoot?" Harrow glances back down at his crew. The driver's face is streaked with blood. Joe is holding his shoulder. The gunner's hands are steady now, but his eyes are different, like they've moved one step closer to something cold. The gunner says very quietly, "We can shoot." The sergeant nods. "Then shoot, because they sure as hell ain't pausing while we argue with the sky." That's the first real consequence. The battle does not stop to process betrayal, accidental or not. The second consequence arrives in minutes. Higher command is furious, and furious command is dangerous. Orders snap down the net. Recognition procedures change on the fly. Panels, smoke, flares, anything that can make an aircraft hesitate 1 extra second. A British liaison officer arrives later, breathless, mud on his boots, face tight with shame and anger at the same time. He climbs onto the tank like a man approaching a wounded animal. "I'm sorry," he says first, because anything else would be suicide. No one answers him at first. Then the driver spits into the dirt and says, "Tell your pilot he damn near killed us." The liaison officer swallows. He was engaging a panther firing through the gap. he says. It appears the rockets went long. Harrow's eyes narrow. So the Germans were using us as cover. Yes. That hits differently. Not better, not forgiven. But it changes the shape of the anger. It gives it a new target, the enemy's cunning, the battlefield's cruelty, and the fact that modern war is now fought by men who can kill you without ever seeing your face. Still, Joe is bleeding. Still, trust is cracked. And now a new fear grows in the lane. If the Luftwaffe had done this, it would make sense. But it wasn't the Luftwaffe. It was the sound we were praying for. Unteroffizier Karl Heinemann is a Panther gunner with a shaking left hand he tries to hide. He has been on the road too long. He has watched too many villages become smoke. He has listened to too many engines overhead and learned that the Allies own the daylight. When the counterattack begins, his commander sells it like salvation. We push through. We cut them. We breathe again. Karl knows better. He knows a Panther can kill a Sherman, yes. But a Panther cannot kill the sky. So he fights like a man, bargaining with time. Near Mortain, he positions the Panther behind a hedgerow, cut that gives him a narrow view down a lane. It's a dirty trick. Fire through the gap, then disappear under branches. Use terrain like armor. Use the Americans' own movement as a shield. He sees Sherman's halt, bunched, nervous. He fires. The recoil punches through his body. The shot cracks down the lane. He doesn't see the hit. He sees only smoke and movement. Then comes the Typhoon. Karl hears it. Everyone hears it, and his stomach turns to water. The Typhoon's roar is a verdict. He thinks, this is it. This is where we die. But the rockets slam into the lane in front of the Shermans. Karl freezes. For a second, he can't understand what he's seeing. Allied air striking Allied armor. At least that's what it looks like from the hedge. A brutal, shameful part of him feels relief. Not joy. Relief. Because relief is what survival feels like when it steals someone else's breath. Then he watches the Americans react. Men scrambling, medic climbing, officers shouting, the damaged Sherman still turning its turret despite smoke. Karl's relief curdles into something harder. Even when the sky hits them, they keep fighting. He thinks of his own crew, his driver, his commander, the loader who whispers prayers into his collar. He thinks of his mother in a town that will soon be under bombs. He thinks of the lie of this counterattack and the truth of what comes next. He reloads because he is trapped in the same machine as everyone else. And because he knows the cruelest advantage he has right now is not his gun. It's the confusion the Typhoon just created. The battle tightens. Germans probe. Americans hold. The lane becomes a throat the battlefield keeps trying to choke. The wounded Sherman remains in position, because retreating means exposing the column, and because the crew's pride won't let a rocket scare them off the road. Harrow works like a man juggling knives. He coordinates with infantry, watches the hedgerow gaps, tries to keep one ear on the radio and one eye on the sky. Then the Typhoons return, another pair, lower, faster. Someone in the infantry yells, "Panels up! Panels up!" Men wave cloth like drowning sailors. The first Typhoon dips. The pilot sees smoke. He sees vehicles. He sees muzzle flashes. He He sees a lane full of targets, and he starts his run. The crew in the Sherman hears the engine angle change. He's committing. The driver whispers, "Not again." Joe, bandaged, pale, says through clenched teeth, "If he hits us again, I'm writing a letter to the king." Nobody laughs. Harrow stands up in the hatch anyway. He is shaking. He doesn't care. He waves the panel so hard it snaps like a flag in a storm. He screams into the radio, "Friendlies! Friendlies! Abort! Abort!" For half a second, nothing. Then a new voice cuts through. Sharp, authoritative, British accented, calm like a knife. "Typhoon lead, check your run. Friendlies marked on the lane." Repeat, "Friendlies marked." Break off. The Typhoon wobbles, hesitates, then pulls up, aborting. The second Typhoon follows. The lane exhales. Harrow drops back into the turret, chest heaving. His eyes meet the gunners. That moment is the true consequence. Not the first strike, but the near second strike, and the realization that survival now depends on procedures that must work under pressure. A British air controller, forward air control, has finally locked in. The system begins to function the way it was designed. Targets get confirmed. Smoke gets placed farther off. Run directions are adjusted. The Typhoons go hunting again, this time for the Panther. Minutes later, the Panther fires again through the hedge gap. And this time, the Typhoons hit the gap correctly. The rockets slam into the hedgerow cut, and the explosion is different. Deeper, more final. Dirt and branches erupt like a ripped open lung. The lane shakes. The Panther's position becomes a choking cloud of smoke. Infantrymen cheer. One raw shout, then another, like men remembering what help is supposed to feel like. The gunner in the Sherman watches the smoke and says, quietly, almost to himself, Okay, they can see again." Harrow doesn't answer right away. Because the hardest part is not surviving the strike. The hardest part is deciding afterward that you will still accept help. Night falls like a blanket thrown over a wound. We stop in a fold of ground off the lane. Engine off. The tank ticks as it cools. Somewhere out there, Germans move and whisper and plan. Somewhere above, aircraft engines fade into distance. The sky is black now. Safe, only because it can't see us. Joe sits on the hull with his shirt torn open at the shoulder, bandage wrapped tight. He's trying to smoke with one hand. The medic told him not to. Joe does it anyway, because that's how soldiers argue with death. Harrow stands beside him. He doesn't speak for a long time. When he finally does, his voice is softer, dangerous in a different way. "You all right, Joe?" Joe looks at him like the question is stupid. Then he sighs. "Sir, I've had worse dates."
Worse dates.
That gets a thin laugh out of someone. Maybe me. Maybe the driver. It's the first real laugh since the rockets. A shadow approaches through the hedgerow gap. Boots. A man clearing his throat like he wants to be anywhere else. It's the British liaison officer again, mud-streaked, helmet low, eyes tired. He stops at the tank, and for a second he looks too young to be carrying shame. He says, "I brought this." He holds out a folded paper, an official-looking form, too clean for the battlefield. Then, awkwardly, he adds something else. A cigarette tin. Harrow stares at the paper like it might explode. "What's that?" The liaison swallows.
What's that?
A statement, for the record. The pilot's report. He requests it be passed on that he believed he was engaging a German Panther, firing from the hedgerow. He realizes rockets went long. Joe takes the cigarette tin first, pops it open, sniffs. British cigarettes, he says, and makes a face. You boys really did hit us twice. The liaison officer flinches. Then, to his credit, he doesn't argue. He just nods. Yes, Harrow's jaw works. He looks like a man holding back a speech that would get him court-martialed. I can't stop myself. I say,
Did he see the star?
Did he see the star? The liaison officer looks down. He says he saw something, but at that speed, with smoke, he's not sure. He broke off on the second pass when your panel was confirmed. Joe flicks ash into the dirt. Tell him, Joe says, voice rough.
We have to leave now.
Tell
before
him
it's too
I'm
late.
still here, that he didn't kill me, so he can sleep. The liaison officer's eyes lift. Surprised, grateful, pained. I will, he says. Harrow finally takes the paper. He doesn't sign it yet. He folds it, shoves it into his jacket. Then he says the thing none of us expect. Tomorrow, we paint the star again. The driver snorts. Sir, we paint it 3 times. Big enough for God. Joe grins, winces immediately, and says, paint it on my back too. Maybe that'll help. We laugh again, a little more real this time. And that's the moment I understand the answer to the question that's been eating me since the rockets. Trust isn't a feeling you have because the world deserves it. Trust is a thing you build because you can't survive without it. Tomorrow, the Germans will still be here. The hedgerows will still hide them. The fog will still lie. And the typhoons will come again, because we will call for them again. Not because we forgot what happened. Because we remember it, and we choose, anyway, to keep moving under the same sky.